Hi, this is Rick from EssentialPhotoshopElements.com. In this video we're going to see how to emboss shapes in Photoshop Elements. I'm using Photoshop Elements 13 for this video, but it'll work exactly the same in versions 11 and 12 also. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up to the File menu and say New Blank File, or you could use the keyboard shortcut Command-N on a Mac or Control-N on a PC. And that brings up this dialog box, and I'm just going to go with the default Photoshop element size and say OK. And now we have our new document. Now I want my shapes to be a different color other than white. I'm going to go up to the Edit menu and say Fill Layer, and then in the Contents area from the Use field, I'm going to click on that field and choose Color. And that brings up the color picker. The way this works is on this vertical bar you get the general hue that you want. So if you wanted a blue, you could go here, and then once you have a blue you can click around in this big square over here to fine-tune your color a little more. I'm going to go with this purple and say OK to close the box and accept the change. And then I'll say OK to this box to close it and accept the change. Where it used to be white, the whole background layer is filled with that purple color. Now I'm going to go over to the toolbox and click on my marquee tool to make it the active tool. And I'm going to click and drag diagonally with it in the active image area. When I let go, I get a selection of the shape that I drew with the rectangular marquee tool, and I want to put that on a new layer all by itself. I can do that by pressing Command J on a Mac, or it would be Control J on a PC. Now if you look over in the Layers panel, you can see I have a new layer called Layer 1, and it just has that purple rectangle on it. I'm going to, at this point, hide the visibility of my background layer. I can do that by clicking on its eye in the Layers panel. So now all we can see is Layer 1. Now I want to add the emboss effect to it. To do that, I'm going to go down to the lower right of my window and click on the Effects icon down here. And that brings the Effects panel up on the right side of my window. And there's three different options here. You have Effects, Filters, and Styles. I'm going to choose Styles, and just so you know, there's a bunch of different options just in the Styles category. I want bevels, so I'll select that, and I have these 10 different bevels that I can choose from. I'm going to choose this one right here, which is just the simple inner bevel. And to apply that to my shape, I double click on it. Now you can see I have a bevel on my rectangle. Let's go back to the Layers panel. You can do that by clicking on Layers down in the lower right of my window. Now you can see on Layer 1 we have this FX, since we added that bevel effect. And I can make some adjustments to that by double clicking right on where it says FX. I'll do that, and it brings up these Style Settings dialog box. There's one slider here that you can change, and it's the size slider. If I click and drag the slider towards the right, the bevel gets bigger, and if I slide it towards the left, it gets smaller. I'm going to bring it up to about that. Looks good, around 50 or so. Just so you know, there's one other option here, which is direction, and I'm going to leave it on up, but just so you know, you can choose down, and it will look like that. Now I'm going to click OK to close this box and accept my change. And that's basically it. I now have a rectangle with a bevel on it. Now let's see how we can do the same thing with a round shape. So I'm going to get rid of Layer 1 here by dragging it to the trash in the Layers panel. I already have the marquee tool selected, but it's the rectangular marquee, and I need the elliptical marquee, so I can choose that by going down to the tool options and clicking on it down there. And I just click and drag again diagonally, but this time I want to constrain my shape to a perfect circle, and I can do that by holding down the Shift key. I'll press the Shift key down and then click and drag diagonally, and now I have a selection in the shape of a perfect circle. Put that on its own layer by pressing Command or Control J. Choose the effects panel from down in the lower right of my window, and I'm going to apply that same simple inner effect and go back to layers. And I forgot to hide my background layer, so I'll do that now by clicking on its eye. We can double click on the FX in layer 1 to get our settings box and adjust the size of our bevel if we want. I'll make it a little bigger. Click OK. And now we have a circle that's been embossed. Now all we have to do is crop it down and save it. So I'll go over to the toolbox, click on the crop tool to make it active, and I'll click and drag with the crop tool. Click the green check mark to accept it, and go up to the File menu and choose Save As. And I want to save it to the desktop. It's just called Circle. For the format, in order to preserve that transparency, we need to save it as a PNG file. If we were to save it as a JPEG, the background would turn white when we opened it up the next time. So we'll save it as a PNG. I'll just say OK to that, and that's all there is to it. I hope you found this video helpful. Until next time, this is Rick from EssentialPhotoshopElements.com saying take care.